leaders who serve. I think being willing to do anything, there's no task beneath me and there's no task I can't achieve. I think that's leadership, is to show I'm willing to take on anything.
Welcome to Health Pulse, conversation with leaders who are shaping our future of healthcare and how we live as we age. Hi, everyone. I'm Dhrupal Patel, and today I'm joined by Matt Smith, co-founder of Speak2. Welcome, Matt, to our episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And what I appreciate about Matt's work, it's really his work sits at the intersection of consumer experience, dignity, and technology, really, especially for seniors living in the environment where choice can sometimes feel limited. You don't have much choice over there. With that said, Matt, you are in Midtown, and what's the energy in New York this week?
Well, this week it's been a little bit cold and snow and rain, so not as energetic as usual. But in general, Midtown is, as an arrogant New Yorker, we think it's the center of the universe. I'm sure other people would not agree with that, but always a ton of energy, such a diverse group of people coming from all around the world visiting. I probably hear 4 or 5 languages every day, walking about and going into shops and buying food. It's a great experience.
Awesome. And you are about to head to Europe. Was it that trip a work trip or like you want to recharge yourself?
It's more of just sort of a reset. So I haven't taken any kind of real time away from work for maybe 5 years. So things are going very well for us. And my co-founder recently took a little vacation, and now it's my turn. And I'm not going to bring my laptop. I'm going to actually just experience some things and not work at all and not think about work.
No, much needed, fair enough.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about the personal, professional, story. So before Speak 2, what were defining chapter on your career or of your career that shaped how you build the product today? Is there like a kind of a moment in the past that you realize, okay, now you care about more building human-centered technology?
Yeah, that's a great lead. And, I was doing a lot of consulting work over the years. When I first got into software, I was working in the finance industry, which, New York is very heavily finance based. I was doing a lot of software and it just wasn't really helping anybody. It was software for the sake of improving a process or, increasing revenue. And over the years, I had this kind of need to do something a little more impactful, to try to align some of my values with my work. And about 2018, 2019, I had been doing some consulting for a company, and I saw this opportunity around the longevity economy. Specifically, my parents were aging, a lot of family members. And I thought, let me look into this, because I didn't see a lot of solutions out there for people as they were aging. In fact, there really weren't many at all. It was mostly just, buy a pendant to put around your neck in case you have an emergency. So I tried to help out specifically my mother, to get a little bit more connected with her family and friends. She couldn't see very well. She had macular degeneration and visually couldn't do much, couldn't use a smartphone. And all the rest of us are texting and, kind of communicating via technology, and she couldn't. So I built a little prototype using Amazon's Alexa for her to just use her voice to interact with people. And a light bulb went off, and I just said, let me look into this more. And I talked to some people in the longevity space and aging and senior living. And I really did find that there was not a lot of innovation in that space. So it was an opportunity for me to say, you know what? I've done a lot of really cool things with technology. I've done a lot of consulting. I've looked at how a business can sort of transform people's lives, but I never really did it myself directly. And then I met my co-founder, Jillian Guerra, and we kind of connected and we said, hey, we could do this. Let's build a business around this problem. And from that point on, the pandemic hit right when we were starting it.
Right.
Which actually turned out to be good, because it gave us, nothing about the pandemic was good, but from a business perspective, it was good because it allowed us to really focus on what the product should be and do research. And it really also identified to a lot of people that people who are aging, especially those in senior living communities, are really disconnected from the world. So it allowed us to build a product that really addresses that problem. And we've been, as I said in the beginning, I haven't stopped for 5 years. I'm taking my first real vacation in a couple of weeks. So yeah, that's a really long way of saying, yes, I finally came across something where I could take my technology and consulting expertise and apply it to something that was truly going to help people in their day-to-day lives. And it's been really meaningful.
Right. No, thank you so much giving that insight. And I completely agree. Mainly for, senior livings, we don't have much solution out there. And yeah, I mean, this is something I think at some point we all are going to face it. So I think this is a good way to start. Right, right.
As they say in sports, father time is undefeated. So
Right.
we're all hopefully going to get
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So what belief about technology do you hold that most product leaders they don't?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of product people, people who are in product management or product development, they tend to be driven by their goals, and their mission tends to be financial. And, especially in the startup world, it's really they're looking for an exit. Right. So it tends to be you go down a path of, hey, I really want to do this great thing, or even people with the best of intentions, they want to do something to help people. But the realities of financing it take over. And as
Right.
a product, especially if you're in a big company like a bank or something, you're building products to generate money. And as a startup, you're also building products to generate money because you have to. So I think that the outlook that I was very fortunate to have with my co-founder is money has not been the primary driver. And while a lot of people say that, we've actually really done it. And like I could prove it with the lack of revenue that's come in to the co-founders. So, we said, we don't need to get paid. We don't need to charge to hit certain numbers. It's not like we have a quarterly target. We did a very specific thing, which is we financed this ourselves. We're very lucky to be able to finance ourselves. We have some previous success that has enabled that. But when you take away those financial constraints, you can then look at your product purely as how is this going to help the user of the product, as opposed to, yes, I want it to be useful to the person, but I need to make money at it. I need to charge the maximum amount. And we just didn't have to do that because we didn't raise money. We didn't bring on financiers or anyone who was going to tell us we had to sell a certain amount. And I think it really drove our product vision because we were
Right.
purely driven by what will really help people today, especially for people who bring in venture capital money, because they're not looking for today, they're looking for an exit. So they say, hey, in 3 years,
Right.
I need to be making X amount of money to get 10X of the investment. And everything is done for that reason. And when you take that away, you can say, okay, what am I actually solving today? It might not be some big problem. Like there's a lot of things with AI companions and fall detection and
Right.
things that will solve really big problems. We were able to look at and say, how can we help people right now live a better life? And our financial approach drove that.
Yeah, means I know means you've been telling that you started this venture or this company back in 2019, and you've been working so hard on this, and took any single vacation or any time off. So let me ask you this question: like, what keeps you like grounded out of because I know there are a lot of things going on day to day because you have a family, you have this business, the startups, right? And a lot of other things. So is there any activity or anything that keeps you grounded?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I've always done music as a hobby. So
Hmm.
I've continued with that to some extent. It's calming and it's just sort of a distraction during the day. I think the biggest thing that keeps me grounded is I do spend a little bit of time each day writing, and just journaling. What would be called a diary, years ago. But
Right.
I have a specific path that I take, following a specific set of prompts. And just every day I have a prompt, to talk about something specific. And I write about it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and reflect a little bit on my thoughts on it. And it keeps me very grounded and kind of within myself. And I think taking that little time every day, it removes you from the tasks that you have, and it makes you
Right.
kind of focus internally and kind of balance, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling that way? What am I anxious about today? Or, what am I feeling maybe overconfident about or not confident enough about? And I think just getting those thoughts and forcing yourself to literally put it into words as if someone else is reading it, uh, it really grounds me. And it's something I've been doing for years. And I don't really talk about it much, but I really recommend it to people, whether it's just writing down a couple of things, what you plan to do that day, or like I said, getting a book of prompts, or it could be something spiritual or religious or whatever.
Right.
That definitely keeps me grounded. And I have a great support system, right? I have family, I have kids. My co-founder and I are
Okay.
great friends, and we laugh a lot and celebrate our work a lot. So that helps a lot too.
No, I think yeah, we should celebrate whether it's a small win or the big win. I think that gives us some energy
Yeah.
to move forward. Okay. If someone worked with you for a year or two, what would they say defines your leadership style?
I
Maybe
think
say example in a one word or one, not one word, but say one sentence.
Yeah, I've always followed, there's a book by Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last. And I think that's sort of the approach that I've always taken is leaders who serve. I think being willing to do anything, there's no task beneath me and there's no task I can't achieve. I think that's leadership, is to show I'm willing to take on anything. I'm willing to help in any way. And, years ago I had a company and they would say, we need to hire a cleaning service. And we just had a little office in New York. I'd say, I'll clean up every night, and I was sort of in charge. But I think really demonstrating that you will do whatever is necessary without ego is really important as a leader.
And earlier, I think I remember you described Speak2 as almost an Amazon for controlled environments, like restoring choice and autonomy. Why is that so important for mental health and dignity?
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, if you think about it, defining yourself in society is very much, we're all consumers. And I
Mhm.
think, there's really no avoiding it. And sometimes consumerism and, capitalism are viewed as maybe a negative thing by some people. But really, what we're doing every day is we're consuming content. We're deciding, what apps we're opening or what TV shows we're watching or what news or what we're reading. We're buying things. We're getting an Uber, we're buying a package, we're going to the store and buying food. We're constantly consuming. And in many ways, that is our self-determination. What store do I like to buy my pizza from, right? Where do I go to relax? Do I go to a restaurant or a bar or whatever? When someone ages into a senior living environment where they can no longer take care of themselves at home, and either by their own determination or by family members, they say, I need to be in a place where many things are taken care of for me. And maybe, I'm not driving anymore. I'm not cooking anymore. Those environments can take a lot of that self-determination away. And now I'm just a recipient of being a consumer. And really, other than watching TV, I'm not really making many choices about what I'm doing. There's a meal and I eat that meal. And maybe there's two choices, but I'm certainly not choosing what restaurant or what kind of food I want that day. It's harder to purchase things. Most of us purchase things on our phone or online. And
Right.
that's not something that a lot of people in senior living are capable of. So that self-determination really has an impact on wellness and how people feel about themselves and how they engage with other people, which that socialization is the most important thing to wellness and happiness. So that's what Speak2 provides, is a way to consume content, order things, make requests, get help, all the things that you can do, from home. We provide a way for people to do that within a senior living community.
Thank you so much for giving that insight and the purpose behind that. So longevity tech feels like it's evolving in real time. Even 3 years ago, the category felt different. So what has changed in last, I would say, 2 to 3 years in senior living and the age tech?
Mhm. That's a great question. Age tech, there's something called age tech now, right? Which is people building technology specifically for the aging economy. There's been a lot of money put into it, primarily because the baby boomer generation is very wealthy and they've kept their money. They're not, the generation before them tended to give money to their children, or they just handled money differently. Baby boomers tend to maintain their wealth, and they want services, and they want to live a certain way based on their place in society. So as a result, as these people are aging into that level, people have realized there's a lot of opportunity here. So what used to be age tech was a pendant, I need help, or home companions, someone coming to my home and cleaning for me, and things like that. Now, there's just so many age tech solutions, from, like I said, virtual companions, fall detection, ambient computing, where there's sensors and monitors and cameras monitoring how people are living to make sure that they're maintaining wellness, and that they're getting the kind of care that they need, or even just the activity that they need to make recommendations. So age tech has really evolved from becoming, I have an emergency, to how am I living my life? And there's a lot of venture capital money being poured into it. I think it's a really interesting space. We very much focus on things that can happen today, like I need to ask for something or I need content. There are a lot of people raising a lot of money to do things that are, game changing. How do we address dementia? How do we address falls? Fall risk are, one of the biggest health problems as people as they age. So there are a lot of things addressing that, raising a lot of money. And then there's things that are just day to day. How do I get someone to come clean my house because I'm not prepared to move into a senior living community, and anywhere in between? So really interesting space, a lot of money being poured into it, and there's a lot of excitement around it as well.
Right, right. And again, I'm going back to our previous conversation where you kind of slightly mentioned that you are now in a real growth phase, projecting significant expansion over next, I would say, like 18, 24 months. So when you say growth, what does that mean in practice for Speak2? It's like more communities, deeper adoption, or expanded AI capabilities, around what you build.
It's a little bit of all three, but the main growth is to get our solution to more people, right? So growth right
Right.
now looks like more users. But in order to do that, we are focusing on how we can use AI to take the data that we have, take all the interactions that we have, and then provide to the people who are managing all this so that they can make better decisions at a lower cost. So if you think about it, we're taking in a lot of people ordering food, people ordering rides, people ordering housekeeping, people just getting a lot of assistance through our system, and then people asking for content. What events do I have scheduled, and messaging back and forth to family members. So there's a lot of data points. There aren't enough people, and there's not enough money being put into the system to care for all of these people that need care. So one of the things we're looking to do as a growth area is to be able to use some generative AI, just basic LLM capabilities, to take in a lot of that information. We put an algorithm on it at Speak2, and then we turn that into actionable information for family members, for care staff. So as an example, someone who hasn't maybe attended a lot of events, hasn't left the building very much, isn't going to church services anymore, maybe they're waking up later, we can then tell family members, hey, this person isn't being contacted enough. Do you have anybody that could maybe send them a message this week or weekly, so that they're getting more enthused about interacting with someone? We can tell care staff, hey, this person's waking up later every day. Come knock on their door. Are they having some health issues? All of these things are data points that we have, but it takes a person to analyze all that previously to make it actionable. Whereas with AI, we can actually just make that happen extremely easily, so that it's sent to the right people at the right time with the right information to take action on it. And I think that in itself will provide a lot of growth, because it will lower the cost of care. It'll increase wellness. And just from a common sense perspective, it just makes life better for everybody. So it's a use of AI, like we always refer to ethical AI. It's a use of AI that is not targeting someone to sell them something or market them something. It's targeting someone to improve their wellness. And I think that's a big growth area for us.
And I 100% agree, especially in the healthcare space. AI, it's like kind of booming, and I mean, there are a lot of solutions out there, but at the end of the day, patient or whoever consumer should get a kind of a good solution, kind of a benefit from out of using that tool or technology, whether it's AI or something else. Around scaling, around growth, as you scale, where does growth feel smooth and where does it feel like friction?
So, I mean, I think for us, we've grown very slowly, purposefully slowly. So we don't have some of those same constraints of, hey, how do we finance our growth or how do we deliver to more customers? That's something that we intentionally, based on how we're financed, took kind of a measured approach around. So we don't see friction in the sense of rolling out to more customers being an issue. I think the problem that we have in our space is the attention, the amount of time and the amount of attention that our customers can give us, right? So this industry, people are very busy. They're doing a million things at once. They wear many hats. They're really kind of missionary, heroes in what they're doing to help people. And for us to roll things out and have new features, if it requires people to stop what they're doing and pay attention and take training and put time into just learning how to use something, that's a lot of friction in our industry. So we have to build things that are part of the flow of their day so that, if they have the app and suddenly there's something new in the app, it's just sort of obvious. It can't be something that requires training. So it's really more of a user interface challenge and not rolling out things that we think are really cool, but are complicated for the person as they're doing their job. So that's our biggest friction point. But luckily, again, we don't have to do anything until it's really ready for market. So we're able to take a measured approach to make sure it's successful.
Right. So I think the more kind of adoption or after adopting or kind of deploying a new feature or functionality within your app, I think maybe I would say the training piece or the training part, or really the change management portion. I think I think around that area, it has some friction, right?
Yeah, it's more change management than training. It's a great point. It's like, hey, I'm doing my job. I'm using a binder and I have a beeper. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of people in this industry are still using beepers to get alerted of things. So to change that is really the friction. It's not so much training. This is an app and this is how you use it, because most people can look at an app and kind of figure it out at this point. But it's more the change management of, I'm changing my workflows, I'm changing my process, or I'm even just changing how I even think about how I do my job. How do I let all of the people in this building know that something important is happening? I mean, currently a lot of these places, they go door to door and they knock on the door, or they tape a piece of paper to the door. So introducing them to something like, hey, we're going to put an Alexa in every room. We're going to do a push notification and an email. Just type it in and hit send, and now everybody's notified. That's a foreign concept. And a lot of the people who work there will say to themselves, I don't know if I trust that everybody got the message. I have to put that piece of paper on their door. So that change management is more cultural and industry wide than it is any one vendor or any one user interface.
Right. And this is my question. I think it's more related to that, probably be covered, but I want to ask this, like, if you had a magic wand and could remove one top constraint which slow down Speak2 right now, what would it be?
The honest answer, the industry that we work with is traditionally a real estate business. They're buying property, they're renting apartments, and along with those apartments, they're providing services like food and events and things like that. I think if the industry would stop looking at themselves as a real estate business and start looking at themselves as a services business, then our vision of the industry, which is just a small software vendor, would be more aligned, because it's not, no one's moving into a senior living community for the real estate, for the rent of the apartment. They're moving in because of the location, the food, the transportation. They're moving in because of the amenities. So those services are the reason why people rent the apartment. But I think culturally, over years, it's operated as a real estate business. And I think that we would probably have a lot faster growth if people have said to themselves, what is the best way for me to deliver services, as opposed to what is the best way for me to get people to move into my apartment? Because people are moving into the apartment to get the services. So I don't normally share that as my public reason, but I think
Right.
it's actually, I think it's pretty accurate.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And as a vision, right? If you are sitting here a year from now and you said, "Oh, that was a breakout year for Speak2," what
Mhm.
happened? What was that proud moment when you look back?
That's such a great question. I think a breakout for us is more just when we're not selling our product based on features, but we're selling our product based on how it transforms the person's business. So some people will look at us and say, I have a calendar that I manage, and I'm looking now at your calendar, and your calendar has some automations that are better than my existing calendar. So I'm gonna purchase Speak2 based on the features that you have in your calendar. And I think the breakthrough for us will be when someone looks at Speak2 and says, the way I operate my business currently is disconnected, and every department has their own system and people aren't really talking to each other, and I don't have any data that I can act on. I need to transform my business. And your software will help me transform my business to become something different, to become a marketplace. And I think when we're purely selling in that capacity, we do have some early adopters that do look at it that way. But when we're not selling on features and we're selling on transformation, I think that's when we'll have broken through.
No, this is really amazing, Vince. I'm fascinating. I feel very fascinating with this conversation. And what I'm taking away from this conversation is that Speak2 is not just about convenience. I think it's more about restoring autonomy and dignity in environments where, can easily fade. And now layering AI on top of the real human touch points make it even more beautiful. It's been more powerful, I would say. So, where should listener go to learn more about Speak2 or connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on speak2family.com. That's our website. Speak with the number two family. So speak2family.com. It has everything there. We're very transparent. There's pictures of us and stuff that we do, and lots of blogs, customer testimonials. You could try to find me on social media. My name is Matt Smith, so I'm not very easy to find, unfortunately, but I am on LinkedIn. So if you look up Matt Smith Speak2, you'll find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, we put ourselves out there. We have a YouTube channel. I'd love for people to get in touch with me and talk more about any of this. I could talk all day about this stuff.
Awesome. Matt, this was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness you bring to this space and to our audience. So, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the time. This was great.